The following story comes from netizens' contributions. My wife and I worked in a factory in the first half of the year. My wife and her family work in a factory. But we didn't live together. My wife and I rented a house. 2 rooms upstairs and downstairs. The landlord lived in this house before. Never rented out. Later the landlord bought a house somewhere else. Has been empty for a long time. We were looking at houses and it was pretty good. The surrounding is relatively quiet. The house is also relatively clean and tidy. When you enter the room, you can see a talisman on the wall opposite. I think this is probably the landlord's superstition. Posted before. Slightly yellow. There are also stickers in the upstairs rooms. Just different. The characters above are not the same. The color of the paper is also different. Downstairs are a little yellowed. There are some big red ones upstairs. I didn't care so much when I rented the house. The main thing is quietness and cleanliness. I rented it. I moved in a week after I rented the place. I don't think there's anything weird. Later one morning, when working in the factory, I accidentally fell off the goods in the warehouse. He fell flat on his back. Instinctively, the arms want to push back. But I didn't expect it to hit the frame behind me. Directly unable to move. The workers were around. I was dizzy on the ground for a long time before I stood up. My whole arm hurts. Especially when exerting force. Later I told my family that I accidentally fell. My arm was injured. It hurts when you exert force. Fortunately, no bones were broken. No activity until noon. Return to the residence at noon. Slight arm movement. It's no big deal. But my wife still let me rest at home. I planned to take a good rest at noon that day. Get a good night's sleep. I went upstairs. Sunlight shines through the window. Too dazzling. I closed the curtains and climbed into bed to sleep. Slept for a while. It seems like there is a feeling of being awake but not awake. A hazy state. I have a habit of sleeping. Like to cover the head with a quilt. If you don't cover, I won't be able to sleep. Especially in bright daylight. Half awake and half asleep. I suddenly felt something got into my quilt, pressing me down. At that moment, my brain suddenly cleared up. I feel something is wrong. My first reaction was that there was a ghost. I'm possessed. I'm brave. I want to see what kind of monsters it is. I have heard too many ghost stories in my life. That's someone else's. Even if you are afraid, I want to take a look too. What do the legendary ghosts look like? That's when I discovered. I can't move at all. Can't open my eyes. But I can also vaguely feel the darkness. Presence of foreign matter. I just can't see clearly. At this moment, I clearly felt that countless hands were grabbing me. Like a cat's claws scratching me. Something is eating my lips, nose, forehead and chin. And I can't wake up. Can't even move. This is a feeling of powerlessness and inescapability. Suddenly I felt so scary. I have never experienced anything like this in my life. Once when I was a kid. But I can't move. It will be fine in a moment. But this time it took too long. It seems that the flesh on the body has been eaten away. Only a skeleton left. I really want to lift the quilt. I don't know if the quilt is too heavy. Or I can't move my hands. The fear at this moment intensified again. I feel more pain in my body. The pain is like a wound being torn open. Fear makes me tremble. Creepy. It seems like all the hairs are standing up. Like a kitten's fur standing up when it's frightened. I was so scared at that time. At this moment, I only think about, no matter what, you must lift the quilt. Only in this way can I be free. I tried over and over again, but still failed. I remember someone once told me, when you are afraid, chanting Namo Amitabha can drive away evil spirits. In the situation where one is desperate and tries all kinds of treatments, I really did that. But my lips are bitten constantly. I can only silently recite in my heart, again and again. While reciting, I'm still trying to lift the quilt. Time is so long. I told myself, use your perseverance to persevere. Lift the quilt. Lift the quilt. Lift the quilt. Finally I opened. The moment I lifted the quilt, I will never forget. I actually lifted the 2-meter-long and wide quilt up into the air, hitting the ceiling. Then it falls to the ground. That moment, I seem to have used all my strength. Used all my strength. I sat up the moment I lifted the quilt. The window is closed. The door is playing. First timing. I looked towards the door. I want to see it out of habit. Is there anything that could escape through the door? I scanned the whole house. Expect to see something, but afraid to see. But I didn't see anything. I was sweating profusely. Beads of sweat flowed from my forehead, flowing from every pore of my body. Soaked the whole sleepiness. Cool weather. I saw white steam coming out of my body, like a hot steamed bun just out of the pot. Slowly, I came out of my panic. Even so, my heart is still beating fast. Fear is inevitable. The sunlight is blocked by the curtains. The house is a little dark. Suddenly I found that this dark space can suffocate me. It takes my breath away. It is said that ghosts are most afraid of sunlight. I jumped out of the bed quickly. Pull open the curtains. Let the sun shine in. When the sun shines into the house, I felt my heart finally fall to the ground. Despite this, an hour passed like this. I'm sleepy again. I want to sleep a little longer, but I can't sleep. Close your eyes. It's like something is running around in front of me. I even seem to see that disheveled, dirty, hideous-looking thing. When my wife comes back at night, I don't dare to tell him. I know my wife is timid, afraid of scaring him. He can't sleep at night. He fell asleep later. I haven't slept yet. Still can't sleep. I'm worried that this will happen again after I fall asleep. Looking at the talismans on the walls of the room, once again, I gasped. Why do you post so many things? Was this house haunted before? Did I meet a ghost today? The more I think about it, the more scared I am. I checked it online later. Sleep paralysis is actually a condition called sleep paralysis. Despite this, I still feel very evil. A friend of mine, a true Christian, I told him about the sleep paralysis I experienced at noon. Ask him what's going on. He told me, the way of ghosts is similar to the way of humans. When a person is at a low point in human nature, there will always be someone who will take advantage of you to do something bad to you, harm you. The same is true for ghosts. When people are weak, those lonely ghosts will take advantage of the opportunity to sneak in. Nightmares at best. Painfully. It might take away your soul. Take your body. Because I fell this morning. The body is obviously weaker. So some dirty stuff sneaks in. Most likely he was possessed by that evil thing. Friends also said, the house we live in has been empty for a long time. The ghosts will come into the room. Makes the room too dark. Maybe there are some souls or something moving around in there. Here. I can't help but sweat. Listen to him say this. I just found. When I first moved here. There's a chill as soon as you enter the room. Extra cool. So cool that it gives me goosebumps. The entire afternoon. I kept playing the Bible on my phone. The scripture says. The Bible has the power to save all living beings. In this case. Then I'll let the room. The Bible with infinite energy sounded. No matter if those things really want to harm me. Or I bumped into you accidentally. I hope to use this infinite Bible to save him. Let him find his home. Well, my friends, this episode ends here. The next movie is called A Hand Held Me Tightly.